you for this invitation. I'm very honored to be here. Louder? From our perspective as landscape designers, we believe that the potentialities of landscape as a way of urban intervention are important in countries like ours, where the geographical environment is so present. We would like to mention 4 considerations or concepts that affect the relation between the built city and the natural landscape. First one, a direct dialogue between the ground and the project in order to allow defined spaces. There is a very explicit relationship between Chilean cities and its geographical environment, which is mostly seen through visual aspects. But where real connection between landscape and city happens is in the ground. The way in which the urban interventions set open spaces and circulations, and the way in which they adapt themselves to the local conditions, generates spaces of quality or generates trivial spaces. For example, in the case of Valparaíso, it is possible to observe this integration between the built city and its support fairly enough balanced. The system of hills and watercourses that are a part of the system of foldings that are born in the Andes Mountains defines a neighborhood system with open spaces between fragments of the city that look at each other. The adaptation of the relief to flat places and circulations in the slopes of the hills has caused a rich and original repertoire of architectural and urban elements. What still is missing in Valparaíso, we think, is to define an identity for the watercourses as public spaces. In the case of Concon Dunes, not far away from Valparaíso, the local visual qualities have been valued very much, but the qualities of the ground, that is to say, the dunes and its particular life, had not been considered as a space of urban and architectural recreation. The streets and sidewalks have been placed to a forced position that favors a city of cars, sacrificing the whole singularity of the landscape. Some big responsibility of this result is due to the rigid and homogeneous view of the planning regulations that rule in the country, which is also based in minimum requirements. In this case, there is no dialogue with the ground, even though it's one of the few fossil dune systems in the world. It is also evident that landscape, even if it's outstanding, can't stand any intervention scale. It is not possible to achieve a valuable result if the city does not take landscape as part of it, heightening the qualities of the ground that supports it and all of its living systems. Second, the ground as a memory of landscape in an expanding city. In Mary Graham's illustration back in 1822, we look towards Santiago from the west, where we see a line, a constructed line among natural surroundings. Today, that line is a gap in a built urban context. In many Latin American cities, founded in geometrical plots, the existing elements were few natural accidents such as rivers and hills, surrounded by an exterior frame of mountains and a huge space for agricultural production. This space is like a white canvas that city has been filling through centuries until it has been completely occupied. The natural accidents have prevailed, like the island hills or streams of Santiago Valley. They are today matter of design thinking, mostly as leisure spaces and as a conservation spaces for Santiago. The visual relation with the geographic frame is still standing, even though in the outskirts of the city this situation has been more vaguely treated. As a landscape studio, we have worked in several parks in the north suburbs of Santiago, sadly looking how extensions of native shrub and forest, for example, espinos, algarrobos, quillayas, and litres, all native trees, are being erased of the landscape to offer new neighborhoods that are supposed to be connected to natural media. This understanding of natural media is referred to a visual scenery, a theatrical stage. In the landscape projects done in this context, we try to capture at the ground level something of the original nature, preserving and promoting local elements such as rocks, small dry watercourses, walls of stones, and other elements of this dry landscape. This is a visual element as well as an habitat for small birds and reptiles. We know that what now is an imitation or recreation of nature, it will end up as a memory of the original natural landscape. Therefore, time must be considered to be not only as time for things to develop, but also as time for meanings to evolve. Public spaces in dense urban environments may conserve part of the memories of its original landscape. Third, the meaning as value in public spaces. In public parks in Santiago, we have been asked with special interest to satisfy civil demand of significant spaces. These parks not just provide a comfortable place and a sustainable environment. The social dimension of landscape takes a leading role in order to satisfy community wishes that urban development had not been able to provide. Open and green spaces, sports and game spaces, but mostly spaces for community activities. It seems that in this park, neighbors see the opportunity to establish local ties that the street space has been destroying for safety reasons or scarcity of time. These parks are then set as social spaces, especially in the development of the ground level, for example, as a plaza, a square, a boulevard, a market, a sport field, etc. Meanwhile, the natural dimension has been conducted to a parallel system at the treetop level, providing shade and acting as a thermal mechanism. The landscape sustainability should be properly articulated with the social dimension that the civil population look for, so that open spaces may be accepted and valued. People value places when they mean something for them. If something doesn't have a meaning for us, it is impossible to value or feel identified with. 4. The landscape attends to emotions. In his text, Landscape Philosophy, Georg Simmel stands that the specific quality that makes landscape possible to exist is the word Stimmung, or spiritual tone of the place. In this tone or mood is when we are with all our being in the landscape, and this action is an action that looks and feels at the same time. Our life is made of moments and spiritual moods. The moments are external to our being. They are visible and measurable. The moods are internal moments, invisible and hard to measure. They are emotional. It may happen something good to me, but still be upset. One is external and the other internal. As a parallel, landscape is participating in different ways to urban design, but still is not urbanism or green urbanism only. The problems that concern urbanism are guided to provide the correct external moments for people. It attends external, visible, and measurable issues. Landscape, in its singularity, mainly attends the interior moods of people, not only external or programmatic issues. Landscape design in the city development not only means to provide more sustainable dynamics, it also means to provide emotional and aesthetic moments that allow people to find meaning in their surroundings. As we mentioned before, if something is valuable, it must have a meaning for me. There is where we see possibilities to build cities, neighborhoods, and surroundings we feel identified with. Thank you very much.